Hello everybody, my name is Anton Fritz. I'm a principal PM manager on Power BI team. Join me today, Naama, Tsafrir and Yael Biss from Power BI team, and we will share with you how you can protect your sensitive information in Power BI with Microsoft Purview. So just before we start, let's capture some of the trends in digital transformation and governance. So first of all, we see a rapid growth in digital transformation. During COVID, Satya mentioned that we have seen 2 years of digital transformation in just 2 months. This creates new challenges for the security and compliance teams in big enterprises. As 30% of the decision makers indicated that they don't know where or what their sensitive business critical data is. This also creates a trend of spending money on security and compliance. 80% of decision makers have purchased multiple products to meet compliance and data governance solutions. And the last part of this is how Microsoft is evolving as security and compliance vendor, driving great revenue with more than 40% year-over-year growth. For those of you who are not familiar with Microsoft Purview is a comprehensive solution to help govern and protect and manage your data estate. It helps you understand and govern data, safeguard the data wherever it is on any cloud, any system, and improve risk and compliance posture. Microsoft Purview is a suite of products which combine with what was previously called as Azure Purview, now called Microsoft Purview Governance Portal, and what was previously called Microsoft 365 Compliance Portal, which is called now Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal. In the recent years, Power BI invested quite a lot in integrating into this compliance solution to help our enterprise customers. So Power BI has integration with Data Map, Data Catalog, and Data Estate solution, as well as with information protection, data loss prevention solutions, and auditing. Let's start with learning about what is Microsoft Information Protection for Power BI is and what is the value that you can gain for it for your organization. Microsoft Information Protection is a solution that enables you to know and protect your sensitive data. It enables you to classify and label sensitive data everywhere. It has manual labeling solutions as well as automatic labeling solution to automatically scan data and identify sensitive information types. And it can be extendable also for third-party solutions via various SDKs. Microsoft Information Protection is very commonly used by enterprises in Office 365. So as you can see in this picture, we have an Excel file with sensitivity control showing the end user what are the sensitivity labels the organization defined for them to apply on the files. And if the sensitivity labels have protection settings, the file becomes encrypted. And this is the most common use case, and we see a lot of enterprises leverage it already for years to be more compliant and secure. When we introduced information protection for Power BI, the value that we provided to our customer is the ability to classify sensitive information in Power BI. So all the business reports, dashboards, critical business data can be now classified according to organization compliance and security policies. The fact that the policies are unified across different Microsoft products enable you to train your business users, data owners, one time about what labels they should apply on sensitive data, and it will work across different systems. The fact that it's same information protection solutions that are available in various Microsoft products, enabling us to provide end-to-end protection as we get sensitive data into Power BI. We know the sensitivity level, we can apply it on Power BI data automatically, and we can protect the data upon export by applying the sensitivity level when data is being exported to Office. And the last value prop is the fact that this solution is built into Power BI. So once you enable this integration via admin setting, it's automatically on, and you get all of the labeling capabilities enabled. You get all the auditing to M365 compliance available, and everything works seamlessly without you needing to build your custom solutions or buy various licenses. So how information protection looks in Power BI? So we enable users, data owners, to apply sensitivity labels published to them by their compliance and security admins on Power BI datasets, reports, PBX files in Power BI desktop, on data marts, and other artifacts in Power BI service. Once the label is applied on the artifact, as you can see in this GIF, the people who consume this data, and sometimes one person building a report that is consumed by thousands in the organization. So all of these people will see the sensitivity label in the header of the report or the dashboard they consume. And when they export data for Power BI for additional analytics, analysis in Excel, or to PowerPoint for presenting in various forms, Word, PBX, and PDF files, the sensitivity label automatically applied without having to take an action. And if this label has protection settings, then the file becomes encrypted, so only authorized users will be able to open it. As I mentioned before, information protection available in many of Microsoft products, including Synapse, Azure SQL, SQL Database, and Office. Having this solution available in all of these products enabled us in Power BI to provide an end-to-end protection as data travels from Azure to Power BI and to Office. So when Power BI fetches data from Excel file, one of the most popular data sources in Power BI, or Azure Synapse Analytics, or Azure SQL Database, or on-premise SQL Database, Power BI automatically identifies the sensitivity label applied on the data and can automatically apply it on Power BI dataset and downstream reports and dashboards, or everything automatically. And when the data is being exported, as I mentioned before, the sensitivity label and protection applied as well on the file. Let's see a short demo showing the end-to-end. So we'll start with Microsoft Purview compliance, where the sensitivity labels are defined. We will see how sensitivity labels can be applied on Synapse columns, and how the automatic inheritance works when data is being fetched from Synapse by refresh, and when the data is being exported from Power BI to Office. Let's check it out. Sensitivity labels that can be defined by information protection admins in Microsoft Purview information protection and used in Office, Power BI, and Microsoft Purview governance are now can be applied on sensitive data in Synapse. Here I can see how I can apply the same sensitivity labels I can use in Office on sensitive data in Synapse. Once the sensitivity level is applied, every time that Power BI will fetch this data, Power BI will also know the sensitivity level of this data, and if necessary, automatically apply the sensitivity level on Power BI dataset and all downstream reports. This way, every time that end user consumes Power BI reports with data coming from Synapse, they will automatically see the sensitivity level on the report header and know how to treat the sensitive data. When these users also export the data to Office, which is a very common use case, the sensitivity label and protection automatically applied on Office files. This way, we ensure that the data is protected end-to-end, starting from Synapse through Power BI and to Office. So, as we've seen in the demo, you can use data discovery and classification in Azure Portal to apply sensitivity label on Synapse and Azure SQL. And you can also use SQL Server Management Studio to apply sensitivity labels on on-prem SQL Server columns. And this will be fetched automatically into Power BI when Power BI fetches data from SQL Server. The end-to-end protection does not end there. So it's very common for analysts to leverage Excel and the very common and popular feature in Power BI called Analyze in Excel to analyze data that they have in Power BI datasets in Excel files, in Excel workbooks. So we did integration with Excel in order to inherit the sensitivity label from Power BI dataset and apply it on the workbook. So also in this flow, when you analyze data, connect to data from Excel to Power BI, it's also applied with sensitivity labels. One of the biggest and the most popular one now for enterprises is Power BI in Teams. So you can embed Power BI reports in Teams. You can also embed them in secure websites. And in all of these scenarios, the sensitivity label will be visible. So if you want your Power BI report to become of your team conversation, the sensitivity label will be visible there. The protection will apply when you export data, meaning that the protection persists in this scenario as well. Power BI mobile apps are probably the best BI apps in the world, by far. And when your end users consume sensitive data in Power BI mobile applications, they will see the sensitivity labels that applied on these reports and can treat the data carefully. To help organizations enforce information protection policies on new content created in Power BI, we enable security admins defining label policy to define what would be the default label for new content for user. So, and this policy is limited to Power BI. Security admins can have different default label policy for Office than they have for Power BI to accommodate different sensitivity levels of the data that is uploaded to Power BI versus Office. Another policy that we support, which is also defined in as part of the label policy, is mandatory label policy for Power BI, which is also separated from the policy for Office. And this policy enables you to require user to apply sensitivity label when they create a new content. So basically, the user, upon save, getting a pop-up notification, hey, your organization asking you to choose a sensitivity label, and then they choose from the sensitivity labels published to them. Mandatory label policy can be used and in many cases recommended to be used together with default label policy. So if the user creates new content, the default label policy will be set, and mandatory label policy will help to ensure that the user does not remove the label and only can change it. For organizations that are already using Power BI for years and have thousands and hundreds of thousands of sensitive information items in Power BI service, we provide with admin API to set sensitivity labels on content that does not have a label. So in combination with Scanner API, which Naama will cover later in the session, you can identify what Power BI reports, dashboards do not have a sensitivity label, and use this admin API to bulk apply sensitivity labels and get to full completeness of sensitivity labeling of your Power BI tenant. To help track the status of a sensitivity label on your items in your Power BI tenant, we provide in admin portal with protection metrics report. This report provides you with a glance over how many artifacts applied with sensitivity labels and with what sensitivity labels are applied, and also give you an indication of how many items are still left that are without sensitivity labels. So you can take an action and use the admin API I previously mentioned to bulk apply sensitivity labels on all the content. Like every security compliance data feature capability, the must-have for it is auditing. So Power BI is integrated with Microsoft 365 audit logs, previously called Office 365 audit logs. And what we did, we extended the Power BI audit logs first to include sensitivity level information. So every report view audit or every action that user does on an artifact that has sensitivity label it will be audited, and the sensitivity level information will be part of the audit. Also, all label-related activities like set sensitivity label, remove sensitivity label are also audited and can be monitored and tracked. And if you need to do some investigation, you can go to the audit logs and investigate what certain user did and what happened there. To help security admins to better analyze sensitivity-level activities in Power BI, we integrated with M365 Activity Explorer. And this is a tool that commonly used by the security admins to analyze certain sensitivity-level activities for SharePoint, Exchange, Office, etc. And the security admin will also start seeing the activities for Power BI. And this is like the unified part, so unified and end-to-end. You can see in one portal what's happening across all products. So your security admin does not need to switch between portals, does not need to allocate tasks for Power BI admin. They get it in the place where they need to see it. To enable information protection in Power BI, once the label policies were defined in Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal, Power BI admin can go to Power BI admin portal and enable information protection. And this setting is granular, so you can enable it for entire organization or do it gradually if you have a gradual rollout of information protection. So you can initially enable it for subset of users, test it, validate it, and then continue gradually to enable it to entire organization. Information protection in Power BI requires users to have the basic governance license. This license is a very common license and included in many of Microsoft product suites, like E5 suite. So you can go to ArcIMS Power BI Data Protection Overview to learn more about information protection and find links to licensing requirements and in which suites this license is available. Now I'm switching to Naama to tell you about how to use Scanner API and catalog tools integration.
Thank you, Anton. Hi, everyone. Scanner API provides visibility and advanced enterprise governance on Power BI content through first or third-party integration with catalog tools. In this way, you benefit from Power BI built-in management capabilities. Scanner API can be used directly or by integration with catalog tools. We are integrated with Azure Purview, Informatica, Alation, and Collibra. The Scanner API is available since August last year. You can get all the metadata and lineage information in one unified set of APIs. Metadata such as the artifact name, owner, sensitivity label, endorsement, and more. Lineage information such as relationship between tables and columns in the data source and the tables and columns of the dataset. You can also search tables and columns to discover Power BI datasets. The Scanner API provides you also the ability to scan just the workspaces that has been modified since the last scan. In this way, you can save resources and time. And you can use the service principal to enable application authentication to Power BI. The integration with Azure Purview enhances your experience and allows you to see the Power BI artifact information in Purview, and you can then access the Power BI from Purview for actions and more information on the artifact itself. Let's see it in a demo. In Purview application, you can search Power BI products, select them, for example, Azure SQL database, Power BI product. You then can see the sensitivity labels, the certification, contacts, lineage, and more. You can then go to Power BI and here you can analyze in Excel, create a report, or drill down to the artifact information to see more more data and to do more action. For more information about the Scanner API, you can find the following links of documentation and blogs. Over to you, Yael.
Thank you, Naama. And now I'm very excited to tell you about Microsoft Purview data loss prevention for Power BI. We've established that enterprises have sensitive data. Now that you've decided you would like to manage this data, we urge you to create a protection plan, which will help you avoid accidental data leakage or inappropriate sharing of the data across applications or services or any other tool that you and your users are using on a daily basis. As part of Microsoft Information Protection Solution, we offer a unified data loss prevention capability, which is essentially a set of rules and actions that you can apply to your data wherever you may find it across the diverse ecosystem of applications and services, whether on premises or in the cloud, whether we're talking about Microsoft products or third party. This allows you to automatically enforce the compliance and regulations within your organization. And it gives you a tool that is both consistent and completely transparent, as it is auditable and you can monitor it. Earlier this year, we've announced the data loss prevention policies within Power BI, which is now in preview. So we took Microsoft Purview data loss prevention and we integrated it into Power BI. Now you can automatically detect sensitive information within the Power BI service across all of your datasets. This can also allow security admins to take automatic risk remediation measures. And of course, this reduces the complexity and the cost because you're using a single tool across all of your products. So what kind of rules can you define in Power BI? First, you can detect if your dataset has a sensitivity label applied to it, such as general, public, confidential, highly confidential, or what have you. On top of that, you can actually scan the actual content of your datasets and see if we identify any sensitive information types. And here there are over 200 available out-of-the-box sensitive information types. And by this, I mean credit cards, social security numbers, bank accounts, phone numbers, home addresses, and whatnot. And of course, if your organization has some kind of specific identifier or any regular expression that you would like us to automatically detect within your datasets, you can of course define that one, and that is what we will look for during the run. So what can you do once a DLP policy runs? First of all, with each and every run, there's an audit log being sent to the Compliance Center for the security admin to be able to monitor. On top of that, the security admin can decide to show a custom policy tip within the actual interface of Power BI. This could provide guidelines to the end user that is interacting with a dataset that has now been rendered sensitive. For example, this dataset now contains credit cards. Please do not use it outside the organization. And of course, the security admin can also trigger an alert and decide the severity, if it's high or low or medium, based on the regulations within the organization. We're also allowing the end users within Power BI to provide feedback to the security admin. So for example, if you think that the policy is inaccurate and there is an adjustment that needs to be done by the security admin, you can report an issue directly in Power BI, and that will reach the security admin. Data owners who find that the policy is actually incorrect and that it has produced a false positive can also override the policy and provide a justification that will also reach the security admin to be able to review. Any interaction that is done with the policy within Power BI is, of course, being logged in the Compliance Center so that the security admin has full visibility. And now I would like to show you what this looks like. We're in the Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal. This is where the security admin is going to define the DLP policy. After giving it a name, you can choose where to run it. So you see where SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, and all the other locations, now we've added Power BI on which we're going to run this DLP policy. And here's where I create the rule. I've mentioned that you can use a few conditions such as sensitivity labels or sensitive information types. In this case, let's choose sensitive information types. And you see that there's a vast list here of all these types. In this example, let's use social security number. And we're going to select all of the options. And that poses as my condition. Here I can define a user notification, which is that custom policy tip that I mentioned before. And this is the message that the end user will see within Power BI. could be the guidelines for what action to next perform. Here I can define an incident report for the admin. This means that they will see a medium type of alert, and also that it would send them an email. Now I'm saving this and I'm able to review. I can see the conditions for this policy. I can see the actions that it will perform. Here we are back in Power BI. I can see the data set, and as soon as I refresh it, it's going to trigger the evaluation of the policy. Now we can see that it was rendered sensitive, and if we click on it, we'll see the details. These details are the exact same custom policy tip that we saw the configuration of a moment ago. To further close the loop, back in Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal, this is where the admin alert is. And when clicking on it, you can see all the details, including the exact sensitive information type that was detected. And as you remember, we also configured to have an email sent, and this is the alert via email. I hope you enjoyed seeing all these awesome capabilities that we've released with Microsoft Purview Data Loss Prevention for Power BI. I can't wait to see you try them out and hear your feedback. Thank you. Back to you, Anton.
Thank you, Yael, Naama. So to recap, Microsoft Purview and Power BI has quite a lot of integrations available to help you meet your compliance and governance requirements. Most of them are generally available, including information protection in Power BI Service, information protection in Power BI Desktop, the mandatory default label policies, downstream inheritance capabilities, and the integration with data map and data lineage in the Purview governance portal. Still in public preview, and we are working toward getting them into GA, are in inheritance from data source and the newly introduced data loss prevention policies.
Okay, so we are at Q&A session, and we found it's very helpful for our customers to ask questions that not always covered. Because we could not do a live Q&A session, we decided to record one based on common questions that we get from customers. So here you can see a list of the questions that we are going to cover, so you can see what to expect. So let's start with the first question. What steps do I need to take to enable MIP labels in Power BI? So this is a great question. First of all, you need to make sure that your organization has sensitivity labels. Usually, organizations that use sensitivity labels deploy them in Office, and you actually must enable sensitivity labels in Office to use them in Power BI. So if you see the sensitivity button, as I showed in the beginning of the presentation, on your Office applications, this means your organization has MIP labels. Then what you need to do is to, let me just share my screen for a second. So here I'm in the Power BI admin portal, and the Power BI admins can find the information protection section with all the information protection features there. So the first step will be allow users to apply sensitivity labels on content. This setting enables you to do gradual rollout, and this is a pattern that we see. So basically, you can start with enabling sensitivity labels for specific security groups, and then go and enable it for entire tenant.
Anton, a lot of our customers are wondering what exact licensing is required for setting and for viewing MIP labels.
It's a great question. So in essence, to use sensitivity labels in general, you need to have two licenses. Information protection governance, this enables you to consume content with sensitivity labels. And to apply sensitivity labels in Power BI, you need a combination of information protection governance license and Power BI Pro license. So you cannot apply label in Power BI if you don't have Pro license. This is a combination. It's worth noting that both of these licenses are included in Microsoft 365 E5 suite. So if you have it, you can get both the Pro license and information protection governance license from this SKU. Information protection governance is a very basic license, so it's also available as part of many other Microsoft skills that most of enterprises have. So if you check it out, there is a good chance that your organization already has this license.
Can you share a little bit about the difference between protected MIP labels in Power BI service versus the desktop?
So this is a great question because it's different. And it's different, and I think first of all, let's remind the audience what do we mean by protected label. So when you configure sensitivity labels in compliance portal, let me share my screen for this as well. Let's go to information protection settings. So protected labels, this means that when you go to a label, and let's take one example here, you can define who are the people that can access files with this label. So this is what we mean by protection. In this setting, okay, so you see scope encryption, and this is basically settings that called encryption. So the security admin that defines the definition for sensitivity level can define if the sensitivity level has encryption settings when it's applied on files, and then the file becomes protected. Coming back to Power BI, in Power BI, we encrypt the PBX files in Power BI Desktop. So therefore, if the sensitivity level has encryption settings, it is enforced on PBX files. When the data uploaded to Power BI service, we don't respect the encryption settings. The label is persisted when you publish from Power BI Desktop to Power BI service, but we don't enforce the encryption settings. Beside one thing about who can change the label. So the label can be changed only by authorized users, but Power BI won't enforce who can access content with this label, something that we do in Power BI Desktop.
So who are the users who can remove or change protected MIP labels?
To change or remove protected MIP labels, the user must have the export or full control permissions for the sensitivity level. And they enable users to change the sensitivity levels in service. This is, by the way, also the requirement for user to open protected file in Power BI Desktop. So unlike Office, where it's enough for user to have view usage rights to the sensitivity level to open the file, in Power BI Desktop, user must have export or full control permissions to the label to open protected file.
Is it possible to share protected files outside of your organization or with guest users?
No. So sharing the files means when you send the attachment, the file is encrypted. So when you send it to the user, we don't currently support users that are outside of your organization, outside of your domain, to be able to open an encrypted file that is encrypted by sensitivity level from your organization. It's on our roadmap, but it's currently not supported. So de facto, even if you do send it to guest users or users outside of your organization, they won't be able to open it.
Let's say your security admin updated the organization's label policy. So now your labels became parent labels. What are the consequences of this?
So this is, first of all, I must say, this is very not recommended practice of making a label a parent label. So what does it mean, a parent label? So if you have a label that's called confidential, we can actually see it in here. So basically, I'm coming back to the label policies. So what we will see is the general is a regular label and confidential is a parent label. This means that it has sub-labels under it. So if you turn an existing label to a parent by adding sub-labels to it, this actually breaks a lot of flows, both in Office and in Power BI. So we don't recommend to do it. And if you do it, you do need to sort of think about the way how you update all of the existing content that has the parent label to get one of the sub-labels. So let's move to the next question, and Yael, this one in your turf. How do I ensure my DLP rules are in a good quality and do not disrupt Power BI users?
Well, Anton, it's a very good question. The first thing I suggest is to start communication between the Power BI team and the security team. It's important that these teams work together. And one of the tools that we enable security admins is the ability to test out rules before they actually enforce them within Power BI. So if the security admin defines a rule in test mode, they can look at the audit logs and see if it produces results, and they can see if maybe there are too many matches, which means that the rule maybe is not defined well enough and they can revise it. And after they've created these rules and started monitoring them, they can decide to turn on the policy tips in Power BI. And these policy tips are configurable. What I suggest here is to have very specific messaging. For example, credit cards should not be used outside the organization, or something that is really guidelines for the end users to know how to interact with data sets that have found sensitive information. And the third part of this is that we are enabling Power BI users to interact back with those policy tips. So for example, if there has been a false positive, meaning that a rule has falsely identified sensitive information where there wasn't any, then the Power BI user can, the owner of the data set can provide feedback and report an issue, which means that it goes back to the security admin telling them that there's something wrong with the rule and that they should look into it. And of course, if the rule is irrelevant for a specific data set, then the data set owner can also override it, meaning that it will no longer run on this specific data set going forward.
So what you mentioned, we have test mode. This means that the DLP policy runs without impacting any usage in Power BI.
Exactly.
This is like my first step to assess impact and the quality. And the second step is actually have a very effective guideline in the policy tip. So it's customized, like every organization can customize their own policy tip. So if I author it well, it helps customers, like end users, to understand what to do. And maybe and after you deploy it and real users see the real policy tips, if something does not make sense or interrupt them, they have the option to either override the detection or report an issue. Mm-hmm. And where do you see the reporting issue? Is it who can monitor it?
So the security admin gets another audit log for each and every one of those actions. So they will see override and they will see report an issue, and if they continue monitoring it, and they can set alerts based on those specific actions, and they're able to see what the feedback is for any rule, and then decide if to turn it off, if to change it, if to maybe revise even the confidence of the detection of the specific sensitive information type.
Got it. And everybody who can, everybody can override, or or they need specific permission to override a policy tip?
So that's a great question, Anton. Only dataset owners are able to override or report an issue. That means that you may have access to a data set or a report that's built on top of that, and you will see the policy tip, but you have to be the owner of the data set or the workspace admin to be able to override or report an issue specifically on a rule.
Got it. And so some people also on this topic ask me how do I do gradual rollout of features? It's every time there are test environments, or how can it maybe start it small before you deploy it to entire organization?
When I set up the policy, the DLP policy in Microsoft Purview compliance portal, I select the Power BI location like I showed in the demo before. And right there's an option to either include specific workspaces or exclude them. So when I start out, even in test mode, or when I try to roll it out in enforce mode, I can start with specific workspaces and see how it is received by Power BI users. And then once I see that everything works smoothly, then I can enhance it to all the workspaces in my tenant.
Actually, let's exclude the idea, because if there are some workspaces that are super sensitive for organization, and you want to monitor them when you have more confidence in the policies, you can just exclude them, as you mentioned, and like run it for everybody, but except those that are super sensitive.
There's also another use case for what you mentioned. For example, if there's a specific workspace that only very specific, highly classified personnel have access to, then maybe I don't need to run DLP on it because there are only 5 users in my entire organization who can access it. So of course it's going to come up with sensitive information, but that's okay because I manage it through the user access.
Like it's like this workspace, I'm fine with it to have sensitive information.
Exactly.
Don't alert me if there is sensitive information there because it's by design.
Exactly.
Cool. It's the scale of DLP and afraid it will hurt my tenant performance. So what do you think about it?
So it goes a little bit first to what we just discussed. I do have control over the workspaces in which it runs, but something that we mentioned, and it's worth to note again, DLP is supported for premium capacities only. This means that when I define this, even on my entire tenant, it only runs on premium capacities. It means that it skips the shared workspaces, and so you can see that within your organization, only the relevant premium workspaces are actually affected by this. And again, in this case, I would suggest to start to see, to roll it out slowly, to see the impact. There's also an application in which you can see the usage of your premium capacity metrics to understand the impact across your organization. So you can review within there and to really understand how much it's affecting the performance.
Cool. And just like, so I'm not sure if it's going to be out by when the session, but it's coming really soon, the CPU metering for DLP policies. And like, I think this is another, like a great opportunity to sort of like help predict the usage of the CPU. Like, because I think like just for the audience, that when people are concerned about the performance, they're actually concerned about their CPU of the premium capacity running out. So this is like the main performance, and then some stuff may not work. So we do provide a way for the admins to do capacity planning to some extent. Do you want to tell about this a bit, about the CPU metering kind of feature coming up?
So very soon we're introducing CPU metering for the DLP evaluation of data sets. Again, this runs only on premium capacities, and it only affects premium capacities and not premium per users workspaces. And what this means is, since DLP is triggered by any upload of new data, such as refresh or publish from desktop, this triggers the evaluation and means that we run on that data set and then classify if it has sensitive information or if it has a sensitivity label. And that refresh action, it consumes a certain CPU, and our evaluation of the data set is equal to 30% of that refresh action CPU.
So actually, like if I have like let's say models that I know how much it consumes because it's refreshing all the time, I can actually predict exactly how much the DLP policy evaluation this model will take. So it's pretty controllable from my perspective how much DLP policies will consume.
Exactly, and you can plan ahead your budget for the next quarter, for the next month, because you know how much it consumes for refresh actions, and then you just add the evaluation.
Got it. And this is actually like security value it provides is so big, and and it's seamless. So it's like it takes the CPU only upon refresh, and that's it. So I have the protection sort of like enforced with the policy tip, and it consumed only one time, not every time that everybody like opens a report.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so the next question is about licensing, and although you covered this in the session, but still, people always ask us again, so what the licenses they need to have for DLP policies to work, and maybe like what the license, maybe like there are two kind of or three kind of personas here, like the security admin who defines the DLP policies, the users that upload data to Power BI, and the users that consume data in Power BI. So maybe like this will help to answer it.
Yeah, so that's a good breakdown. So first of all, to define DLP policies for Power BI, which are defined, as we said, in Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal, you require an E5 license. Once those are set up, then in order for DLP to run on specific workspaces and evaluate all the data sets within them, those workspaces have to be associated with premium capacities. So once DLP has been defined and it runs on the premium capacity, any user can interact with DLP in the sense that they can see the policy tips. So even free users who have access to certain workspaces will see the policy tips, can understand what they can and cannot do with the data. And of course, the users, those data set owners that we mentioned earlier, so those are also pro licensed, so E5 license as well. They're pro users who can create content and upload it to desktop, from desktop to Power BI.
So let me just recap it. As I said, so like the security admin has to have E5.
Yes.
The people who upload data also need to have E5,
Yes.
and also because to upload data to Power BI, they need to have pro license. So it's like a pro license, sort of like
It's part of the suite.
It's part of the suite, and it's included in the E5 suite. So you get the pro license. So if you have E5, you can both upload data to Power BI and it can be scanned. And for people who consume it, they don't need specific license because it's consumption. So it's outside of boundaries of DLP policy feature. Cool.
So Anton, a lot of customers ask us if labeling and DLP policies are separate capabilities, or can they or should they be using them in tandem?
So it's a good question because for customers that don't use either of them, they ask us, okay, what should I start with? Should I use MIP or DLP? And the answer is that each one can be used separately, and there is a value to use them together. So as we covered in this session, information protection, sensitivity labels enable you a lot of capabilities that stand by themselves with end-to-end protection, labeling of the content, and protect on export, great value. And DLP policies provide you another set of values that enable you automatically detect sensitive information upload and provide you users policy tip and alert security admins, which is fantastic value. And each one can be used separately. But if you decide to use both of them, like you use MIP for classification and labeling to be more compliant, and you want to use DLP to detect upload of sensitive data, it makes sense because not only they can be used side by side, there is also a joint scenario where you can leverage DLP policies to be alerted when content with a specific sensitivity label uploaded to Power BI service. And I can give you an example. So if in an organization there is a workspace that can contain finance data, and all other workspaces are not allowed to contain finance data. So what you can do, you can leverage DLP policies to trigger an alert to security admin and show user a policy tip if a user by mistake uploads data with financial sensitivity label to non-financial workspace. This way, you benefit from both worlds. So you have all of the classifications, and if user doing an unintentional mistake and they just publish sensitive data that should not be on a regular workspace, they do the publishing, then the DLP policy will catch it because the sensitivity label can be a condition of DLP policy and trigger alert to security admin.
I can think of another scenario. For example, let's say that in my organization, it's okay to use PII data or credit cards or social security numbers as long as you have the correct label on the data. So for example, if you do upload the data with credit cards, but not with the correct label, so the condition would be sensitive information type equals credit cards, for example, and the sensitivity does not equal highly confidential. In this case, I would like to trigger an alert to the admin and show a policy tip saying you must change this information's data to this information's label to be highly confidential.
This is actually amazing. So this sort of like enables you to both trust your users and help them to be accurate. So if they're doing a mistake, you can sort of like catch this mistake about like misclassification and give them a policy tip. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So that was the question. You can use them separately and you can benefit from using them together. Thank you. I hope you found this session valuable. Please give us feedback. Feel free to reach out to us via LinkedIn, social networks, or Power BI community.